Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. I'm Kimberly from G Free Deliciously. And for today's Cooking G Free Deliciously, I'm going to be talking about a healthy-ish dinner idea for your busy weeknight. This roasted veggie and wild rice Buddha bowl that we're doing today has a nutty whole grains and roasted veggies. Add in the roast, you can add in roasted chickpeas, grilled chicken, or grilled salmon for even more protein in this one dish hearty meal that'll fill you up without weighing you down. So before I get going, I want to talk about a couple ingredients that I'm using in this week's recipe. First of all, and I know I've mentioned before, but I've got the Wildtree roasted garlic grapeseed oil. It's a high it's high in polyunsaturated fats and vitamin E. This grapeseed oil has a high smoke point, which makes it a very good substitute for olive oil or vegetable oils when stir frying and sauteing. I also love that this oil adds a subtle garlic flavor without being overwhelming, letting the flavor of other ingredients stand out. So I am using that in this week's recipe. I also am featuring our Tellicherry pepper from the Spice House. The Spice House is a company originally out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So Midwest company, and a Tellicherry pepper is a coarse grind. And I love it because it's ground frequently and in small batches to guarantee freshness of the pepper. This coarse, dustless grind is perfect for pepper shakers or for those of you who like a little extra texture and bite from your pepper. I also really love it because it holds its flavor well over longer cooking times. And so just wanted to talk about those quickly for a minute or two, and I'll set those off to the side. So today my recipe is for a Buddha bowl. And I'm pulling together one of our favorite combinations that I make quite often. It's a delicious blend of roasted Brussels sprouts, sweet potato, and slivered almonds and wild rice topped with pomegranate seeds, chopped scallions, and you also can use a dollop of cottage cheese or sour cream if desired. So when touching just briefly on the Brussels sprouts, and that when you purchase Brussels sprouts, you're going to look for ones that as you pick them up, they don't give when you squeeze them. You want them to be pretty firm. And when you bring them home, you're just going to cut off the end of the Brussels sprout and peel off any of those leaves on it so that it's nice and clean looking. And then you're just going to cut that in half before you roast it. And I've got just a couple here that I'm doing to kind of demonstrate. I've got my garbage bowl in the sink. I'm not just throwing everything into the sink here. We compost at our place in Wisconsin. And so I keep a stainless steel garbage can at hand to do my composting as we go. So once you have those Brussels sprouts all cleaned up and in half, you can give them a quick rinse. You don't necessarily have to do that. If they look nice and clean with all the bad spots trimmed off, and then I usually don't because that adds extra moisture when you're roasting. So you'll just dump those onto a sheet pan. I'll set this out of the way. And then I've also cubed up one large sweet potato, just in about 1/2-inch cubes. And I'm going to kind of put that on there too. Next, you'll be taking about a tablespoon of the garlic grapeseed oil. This is super, super simple. If you wanted to save a little cleanup time, you could also put foil over top of your pan. And then I've got just 1/8 of a teaspoon of the Tellicherry pepper and a little bit of sea salt. And I'm just gonna sprinkle this over top of my vegetables before roasting. And once they're on the pan, I like to use the best tool God gave you, just your hands, and that to run these around on the pan. I kind of take my Brussels sprouts and turn them upside down so that they get some of that wonderful garlic grapeseed oil on top of them. And we get it all mixed up there nice where everything's got a little bit of a shimmer to it, about like so. There we go. Make sure that they're spread out nicely on the pan. And my soap here, and give my hands a quick rinse. And now we're going to be popping those into a 400-degree oven to begin roasting. And I'm pretty sure my cameraman has got my timer set for me. So next, we want to, I like to make sure that I'm pulling together everything at the same time. And this meal should take about 30 minutes. So I'm just going to turn on my oven here, and I'm actually starting, or my stovetop here, I'm actually setting this about medium-high heat. And then I've got some broth. So I'm adding that into my pan. I've got about a tablespoon of just dried parsley. And I've got my wild rice blend. And there will be links to the wild rice. This is a wonderful blend that I really love. And you're just going to put it all together there into the pan. A lot of recipes will tell you to go ahead and bring the broth or the water to a boil to start. I just add it all in at the beginning. I want to bring it up nice and hot though, where the liquid is starting to bubble and boil, and then I'm going to turn that heat down to let that simmer until the rice comes together and gets, soaks up that liquid and gets nice and fluffy and full. And that while I'm doing that, I did mention to you that oftentimes I will include, oops, and I almost forgot, here's my butter that also goes in there. Now, if you're vegan, you can use oil instead of the butter to add that extra little bit into there, and the garlic grapeseed oil works fine for that. And again, you're just stirring that all together. Now, I did mention that many times with this, I'll want to add some extra protein. And so I am just pointing out today, you can take a can of chickpeas. You're going to rinse them very well, set your oven at 400 degrees, and you're going to spread the chickpeas out on a pan at 400 degrees. Pop them into the oven as the oven is heating up. As soon as it dings that it's heated up, pull that pan out. You're going to add just a tablespoon of, again, like garlic grapeseed oil. You could use our bacon grapeseed oil or our hickory smoked grapeseed oil, or just the natural that has no taste to it. You're going to use a tablespoon of that and about a teaspoon of the Wildtree Cajun seasoning. Again, spread those around, mix it all up. You're going to pop it back into your oven for about 15 to 20 minutes, and those are going to roast up really beautifully. They're wonderful as a snack, and they taste delicious on this particular, as part of this particular Buddha Bowl. So I just wanted to give you that little tip too. Again, if you want this recipe to be vegan, you're going to use a vegetable stock. Otherwise, you could use a beef or a chicken stock. This is one of my favorite rice blends. You can see I'm almost out, and the store was running low on their stock, go figure. So anyway, this is a Rice Select Royal Blend. It comes from the San Francisco area, California, and I've used this for years. I really, really love this particular blend and that. So we've got our veggies roasting in the oven there, and I just wanted to touch a little bit more on what Buddha bowls are. So they're named for big, deep-rimmed round bowls filled with a healthy-ish, vibrant foods. And they came into our homes and in the food scene somewhere around 2013. Actually, when Martha Stewart Living highlighted vegetarian fare featuring a recipe for Buddha bowls in her magazine. It's one of the earliest Buddha bowl references that I found, with whole grains, nutty plant proteins, and veggies that come together in a vegan one bowl dish. So my liquid here is just starting to boil, and I'll turn that down just a tiny bit as that cooks. Okay, so one might think then that Buddha bowls are vegan, but the recipe noted that it's more of a general formula than a hard and fast recipe, since you can swap out different ingredients for variety and make use of whatever you have on hand. Yeah, that was super helpful, Martha, right? So upon further investigation, anyone intrigued with these round belly-shaped bowls figured out that Buddha bowls are a one-dish nourishing meal served in a single bowl and filled with little bites of anything and everything. They consist of rice or whole grains like wild rice, quinoa, roasted veggies, usually a tasty dressing, and a protein like nuts, beans, tofu, lentils, or even meats, fish, or seafood. And that's coming up, boiling a little bit more here. So to make them, and that you're really going to be using a combination of your imagination and your sense of taste to combine your favorite flavors in a meatless or meat included variety that can be eaten hot or cold. Yeah, you can eat these hot or cold, even if it's got meats in it, you know, many meats, chicken, even beef, and fishes like salmon, and that are very delicious when you eat them cold. And so the idea is that you can take this bowl with you whenever you travel without having to worry about heating it up. And so it leaves it up to you. I would note though, just be sure that if you are taking it on the road with you, to keep it in an insulated lunch bag or something like that. And along that lines, I don't know if the airlines are allowing this anymore, but I have taken these types of meals with me because I need to be gluten-free. I have been able to make these to go, send them through the scanners, and take them with me on airline trips. And in that situation, that's a perfect idea for when you wouldn't have access to a microwave, so that you can eat this cold as you go. And this rice is cooking up just beautifully. Really, it's only going to take, probably 10, 12, maybe 15 minutes max for the rice to cook up and get fluffy, and that you still want it to be a little bit nutty when you eat it. So back to the Buddha bowls, depending on your mood and how hungry you are, you can decide just what to include in your Buddha bowl. And as I said, today I've got the Brussels sprouts, the sweet potatoes, and that this is rather a simple Buddha bowl. And we've found that it's very, very delicious. And then you can, always add, one of the things that we'll do is like a grilled chicken or a grilled salmon to the bowl, again, if we want it to have a little more protein. If you're adding chicken breast or salmon, you're going to rinse it with water, pat it dry, slice it lengthwise so that you've got strips of it, and that you're going to rub it with a teaspoon or two of garlic grapeseed oil on both sides, and season each side with a little salt and pepper. You'll preheat a grill pan on medium-high heat and place the meat or fish on the pan, grilling it for a few minutes on each side until it's done. Again, I like to kind of figure out as I go here to make everything happen kind of simultaneously, so that the whole meal comes together in about 30 minutes. And then when it's finished, it's super simple to assemble the ingredients into the bowl so that you can serve it immediately and then enjoy it. Or again, you could prep this ahead in meal prep for later in the week, or for later in the day. So it looks like the rice is pretty well cooked here. You can see it's not overly done, just nice and fluffy. And as you go with cooking the rice, if it does get a little bit dry, you can always add in another tablespoon or so of the broth. So now I'm going to grab, I've got some of the veggies already done here, which I'll use for putting that together. And I'm going to grab out my sweet potatoes and my Brussels sprouts here. It's been about halfway through the cooking. You're just going to kind of toss those around, scoot them around a little bit. And at this point, I sprinkle some slivered almonds over the top. This will give it just a little bit more of a nutty taste as you're eating it. And again, you're just going to, there you go. You're just going to stir this around and everything. These are going to take a total about 25 to 30 minutes. You want to continue roasting them until they become like a little golden brown. And of course, your sweet potatoes and your Brussels sprouts are going to be fork tender in the middle. So now that I've got those almonds on there and everything scooted around, I'm just going to put those back so that they can continue cooking. So for the process here with the show, and that I'm going to put together my Buddha bowl with the veggies that I've pre-roasted here. So when you're making this, I've scaled this recipe down that I'm making today to about 2. The recipe on the site will be to serve 4. And you're just going to divide that rice into the Buddha bowls. So I'm making about half today. I'll stick my rice in there. And then I've got my Brussels sprouts and my veggies. So I'm adding those into on the other side. And again, just, you know, about, depending on how many you're making, about half or so in that bowl. I think I'm going to take one of these nicely golden little Brussels sprouts to stick up on top. For this particular recipe, again, I love to include some pomegranates. It adds a little extra color. And they're very, very delicious. They're very good for you. So I add a few of those in. And a little bit of scallion on top, again, for color and taste. We've got that all together. And last but not least, a few chickpeas, since I've got them. I'll set them over to the side. Hopefully you're going to be able to see just how pretty that bowl, Buddha bowl, looks. I'm hoping that this recipe for roasted veggie and wild rice Buddha bowls helps to keep you well fed and excited to eat in the week ahead. And if you're looking for more inspiration, peek through the film strip located at the top of every page at G Free Deliciously to discover more easy recipes for cooking. That's all I've got. I love you bunches. Please give me a like and be sure to share these recipes with your family and friends. Till next time, bye-bye.